Okay. It looks like we are live. T, whenever you get a chance, feel free to join.
Let's just wait for just a couple of minutes so people can join. Today is a lot is happening and very fast. So we have a lot of grounds to cover. We will encourage our audience to participate through comment. Let's just give them 2 minutes to join, and then we will start. Maybe 1 minute, not even two, because we have a lot to join to cover.
Fantastic. In the meantime, Kana, I don't know if you want to say hi. Now's a good time to say your greeting that I cut you off.
Hi everyone. Akam Nagajirtu, Karibuni sana from the Swahili speaking nation.
Soon to be free zone. Soon to free Kenya, not just Ethiopia.
It is called the Swahili Free Zone, and I had some pastors who are praying for Ethiopia.
Exactly.
Our prayers are with them.
Exactly. I think the whole world's right now praying for Ethiopia. I know we have a lot of interesting topic that we're going to be covering today. I just wanted to say welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Last week I forgot to share. So let's make sure all of us we share the page actually, and we can come back.
A lot has happened in the last week. Our audiences know we use this Wednesday for updates, so and I think they're aware that a lot has happened. Good morning, everybody. It's Wednesday morning. This is our weekly Ola update and reports with our wonderful people, Executive Director Sena Jimjimo and our Council Kanna. It's really great to be with you guys. I wish we can be together, not just here in public, but also just talking a lot throughout the week. But we don't have that luxury. We have a lot to cover today. A lot. As you guys know, the report on the conflict in northern part of Ethiopia has come out today. And yesterday we have a lot of news from the President of the United States and on the decision on the African Growth Opportunity Act. We also had heard from Abiy Ahmed, I think yesterday also. And also we've heard about the state of emergency that was declared in Ethiopia. That also happened yesterday. And of course the gains that are being made by the various liberation armies and defense forces is also a new development. So we have a lot of things to talk about. There's more. I can keep going listing. My suggestion is to start from the report that came out today. Let's just spend maybe 10 minutes discussing that report. And if you have anything to say about the report, there's a lot of things that I wanted to say about the report. We'll start from Sena, and then we'll give a chance to Ken, and then if there's something you guys didn't mention, I'll mention. So right now, Sena, you wanted to say something?
No. I was just gonna say, T, thank you so much. There's so much to be talked. It's like you get overwhelmed. I guess I'm personally conflicted in two ways. One, the fact that so much is going on in Ethiopia, and I don't know if you read the New York Times. I don't know if you say Washington Post. It's like I was extremely young when 1991 change happened, so I only heard about it. But I was obviously old enough when change happened 3 years ago that we were there. We were in the mix. We were part of the change. And history is repeating exactly 30 years from what happened. And so much pain have been done to Oromos, to Tigarus, to Benishangul Gumuz people, to Keman. So many ethnic cleansing have happened. And this historic moment came literally 2 weeks after this House Resolution 445 introduction and the cover letter Congresswoman Bass wrote. What interesting, I've reading. There was this Ethiopia, so-called Ethiopian coalition. They are 750,000 strong, are giving funding to elected officials to misguide them. Yet the people is speaking. Change is coming, not just for the Oromos, not just for the Tagals, but the whole Ethiopia, for the whole oppressed people, not just even Ethiopia, for the whole region. The mood is good, the change, but at the same time, this is very sensitive time. I don't know if you want me to talk about particularly about the AGOA, the Gross Opportunity Act, because that itself is historic. 20 years, Ethiopia is the first to be removed. And I'm saying that the millions of people will be affected by this, but millions more were affected by this government. Millions more were exposed to genocide, exposed to rape, exposed to hunger. Those people crying today, they didn't say nothing when that. But when it comes to the money taken away, they are crying. Now, finally, the Biden administration have the guts to take it. What does that mean for the youth, especially the Oromo youth, who brought change 3 years ago? Those industrial park was disfranchised millions more in the community in there. The land is made for the elites. The business is made majority for the cliques at the expense of the indigenous people on the ground. So I don't know where you want me to start. Maybe you can come back and I'll comment after you.
Yeah, I'll give it to Ken also to speak. If you want to start about the report, or you can talk about the act, the Opportunity Growth Act.
Yeah. Before I go to the report and even go to the AGAO thing, I would like to say that what's happening currently in Ethiopia is the same, missed opportunity that even happened in Sudan, where the civilian revolution was, overtaken by people who pretend to be bringing change, the military, and then the military again betrayed the civilian population. And you see what happened in Oromia. I was there in 2016 when this revolution of young people happened in Ethiopia, and there for almost 9 months. And now the opportunity is missed again by a few individuals who thought that they are ruling it like the country like their own personal family business, and then they end up now missing. And this happened. Yeah, as long as such a revolution might be bloody and might affect people mentally, physically, and much property might be destroyed. My biggest concern is the innocent civilian who have lost their life in the last 3 years. Millions of properties that have been destroyed because of political misguidance, because of dishonesty, because people thought they are the prophet, because they thought they had the miracles at the hand. And that is my, the sadness, the sad realities of this aspect. And if I now go to the AGAO aspect of the view, Ethiopia justified the removal, gross violation of human rights. They are not accountable. The atrocity that happened, look at it, live about Tigray, saw the raping that happened in Guji, individuals killed because of answering the phone call, millions of Oromos were displaced in Wallo. The aspect of, you see, a lot of people were in detention because of celebrating, the Thanksgiving ceremony. Look at the mothers in jail with their children in Guji, the East Guji. And millions of women in Tigray were raped by Eritrean forces and the Amara Fanos and militias, and no one has held anyone accountable on that. And it's a global voice, it has a global call. And Ola and Adesina, you guys played a lot of part in the aspect of, advocacy, advancing advocacy. And I think it's a justifiable, it's justifiable, and people deserve justice. Whenever millions of money is going to the Tumbocrats, the government that eat the blood of the innocents, the government that, detain citizens at their own will, the government that upturn the tyranny of numbers, that we got the numbers, we got the prosperities, the numbers, and people just busted, and they thought that nothing will happen. They can just ignore the world, the voice of the world and the voice of the innocent, and then the world take action, they start crying. That's my take.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a lot to say, but I'm trying to make it short and fast. First, the report is the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission's report. Yeah, they call it a joint investigation, but the report has no mention of that people that were participating in the investigation, especially people from the UN, were expelled in September. It didn't even mention that. So I have a hard time calling it a joint investigation, so I'll call it quote unquote joint investigation. Of course, it's into the alleged violations of international human rights and humanitarian and refugee laws, and that's the investigation into. Now, without looking at who did what and all those things, right? Without menacing words, the report has made it clear that there were a lot of violations that happened in that area. Very heartbreaking, in large numbers, in masses. Extremely disturbing report that came out. Now, who did what is a different story, but just revealing, giving us a window to look into what happened in the area, in unimaginable things, right? The list is a lot: attacks on civilians, unlawful killings, extrajudicial disappearances and tortures and detentions and sexual and gender-based violence. Refugees were treated unlawfully, displacements, restrictions of movements, humanitarian assistance, and so forth. There are a lot, but let me give you my take. One, Abiy Ahmed accepted the report. The main reason why he accepted the report is because the part where it says they were purposely blocking food from reaching the region, purposefully creating this hunger, because that part was absent from the report, and it was absent for a reason, because it's Human Rights Commission, again, an independent body. He thinks the rest of the violations, the rapes, the killings, can be attributed to individual soldiers, and he can be free of charge because that aspect of it is absent. So one, I want to bring attention to that. The second thing that I want to bring attention to is gone now. The bromance that was brewing between Isaias Afwerki and Abiy Ahmed, the bromance that we were seeing displayed, is now completely destroyed because the report holds Eritrean forces even to the more of the crimes than anybody else that is involved. And that has rubbed the Eritrean group, the wrong way, I'm sure. So that alliance, that bromance is dead. So don't even think about it. And another is the report that have been coming out with Amnesty International, other reports with other rights group, the Ethiopian government has been denied, is corroborated by this story. Everything that they said happened in other regions of Ethiopia, in Oromia and Benishangul, things like that, now it was confirmed is habits and things, practices, and things that are advocated, things that are permitted to happen in other areas, happened in Tigray. So we know the people that were doing the same things in other regions. This corroborated. The Ethiopian government does not know those. This report is corroborating the other report. Last but not least, there's a lot of things to talk. The investigation, one of the recommendations is for the Ethiopian government to investigate Ethiopian government. That's laughable. So I'm gonna stop it right here. And if my talk kind of brought some of the things that you wanted to say, you can say it now. Or last but not least, advocacy. A lot of people are saying advocacy doesn't work. We've seen advocacies. Shout out to Team Oromo Leadership and Legacy and Advocacy Association, because advocacy is shown to work, and most of the progress we've seen in advocacy and diplomacy side is because of groups like Ola putting pressure on the international community.
I think that leaves me to comment on it, and it's very interesting. Like I'm looking at people's comments, and I'm pretty sure you can see our faces. We are so upbeat because we are in the moment of history. We sever so much, and I want to talk a lot. There's so much to talk about in terms of the concern the people have. What do the international community need to do? What about the strengths of TDF? Would they overtake the OLA? I guess there's this proverb that's saying it's like it's in a Afan Roma. I'm gonna roughly translate it, and it says like the bird does not sleep on a tree because of the trust or the confidence it has on the branch, but because confidence it has on itself. That's why the birds sleep on a branch. It's not because of the tree, the branch is strong enough. The confidence I have about the TDF overtaking is in Oromo. That for me, as a person who have grown up in this injustice, as a normal person whose father have been prosecuted, who have talked to young women who are raped by previous government, as well as especially by this government, the reason we Oromos hate or feel, or at least hate is the wrong word, feel so passionate about Abiy, more than even the TPLF 27 years is my uncle was killed under TPLF. No doubt, we are very, our memory is fresh what happened to us. But the reason we despise PP and Abiy is because it was we brought the change. It is the Kero who died for this change. It is Oromo who paid the heavy price. The Amara youth who came, I don't know how many people died from them. I just know they protested for a few times or few months, as far as I know. We pay heavy price. And we come from a generation of, over the last 2 months, so many nights we stayed up, so many Congress, so many offices, so many hundreds of meetings we set. And it is painful when we see even the international community not doing sufficient job talking about the Oromo struggle, talking about how the Oromo struggle is hijacked by the Naftanya system. Abiy is the embodiment of truly whom our fathers have fought against 30 years ago. He took us back. He put the hands that fed him. So like for those people commenting here that are worried about TPLF or TDF taking about, I'm not worried about them. I assume Tagarus and TDF have learned their lesson, what injustice means, what oppression means. They have learned, they have experienced their women are raped. My women have raped. My family are killed. I'm a living survivor. I'm a living survivor that have met with officers up into highest office, into the law in the thousands of communities. So we can talk so much. I don't want to talk about, but I really want to ask at the end, come back and talk what the West really needs to do, because we listened to the special envoy's speech. I know you're probably going to come back to that. So to come back to the UN report that you talked about, T, I want to focus around that and then the AGOA. So the UN report, I feel like it made itself mockery. It's a mockery. There's evidence that says crime against humanity. To compare a regime that collaborated with the foreign government, a regime that collaborated with the radical Fano, so-called Fanos, I can't wait for investigation. I can't wait the truth to be uncovered in Ethiopia, for the genocide, ethnic cleansing, mass killing, oppression of the oppressed people like the Oromos, the Benishangul Gumuz people who have lost no voice in this dialogue, in this conversation. I can't wait for those truths to come up. But the report, it made mockery of the crime against humanity, the crime, in fact, including up to genocide, and came up and tried to equivocate a government that collaborated with a foreign entity or the radical group that should be labeled as a terrorist organization, and to put them in equal and say that both sides did a bad thing. I was disappointed at UN. I was heartbroken for UN that just like AU sits in Addis. For the first time, the AU president, put out a statement today. I was laughing at the comments like all parties need to cease the fighting. Well, you should have said that maybe a year ago. You should have said that when the women were being raped, when people were starved to death. We should have said that when a young man, Emmanuel, publicly shamed and executed. You should have said that when Rahima from Bali, with her child, infant child, in prison because they can't find their husband, should have said that. Maybe that would have a meaning, but now to say that. So I think I felt bad for the UN. I'm obviously very upbeat and optimistic because we have to move past this. We're going to speak for everybody, including the Amharas, because they are innocent Amharas, just as much as the Amhara elites are complicit in this. People like Danny Ekelberg. I heard, I don't know, I saw some article, or I wrote some posting that he's asked asylum or some kind of visa to the US, the EU, he couldn't. So they're all fleeing. And I'm just like, but anyway, to go back to the UN, I feel bad about the UN. The AGWA, that one is, T, as I say earlier, and I want to give back to you, is that
I want you guys to speak on, when you guys talk about the African Growth Opportunity Act, I want you guys to speak, because some people are saying the poor are the ones that are, getting the poor people of Ethiopia that are living hand to mouth. Those are the ones that are be affected by this the most. So how do you reconcile with that? The fact that it's a good thing that the Abiy regime is the Abiy government has been hand held backwards and handcuffed in that manner, but the poor people of Ethiopia are going to be the main, the ones that are going to pay the price. How do you reconcile that?
Thank you, T. I think that's where the important part. You're right. Like, how do you reconcile that? Where you have millions of people possibly get affected. This is how we reconciled it, and we've really had a deep discussion about this, because this AGWA has been in the months, at least 8 months in the making, and this is the reason why we supported this move for various reasons. If you look at Ethiopia, they gave billions, not billions in aid. Ethiopia have never become a self-sustaining country. This billions of aid have enabled sustained dictatorship in Ethiopia. So even the good the international community give is being used by the government to buy voting, to buy support, to corrupt people. That's one. Second, and the most important for us is this: the so-called industrial park, where millions of people are said to be affected, have displaced Oromo farmers without proper compensation. The Oromo youth who brought change 3 years ago are labeled as a terrorist, have been killed, have been prosecuted, and nobody have spoke for them. And those the AGOA and the Growth Opportunity Act did not benefit the true change makers. Yes, there's going to be a woman and children who's going to be affected. But when we wait the benefit and cost analysis, I'm sorry to say that it is much effective to send a clear message. We've been saying to the US government, to European government, to really not just put out a concern statement, actually act. And this is one act, and this is not itself is not sufficient, because this government have committed genocide, this government have committed ethnic cleansing, this government have run a sham election and want to be considered a legitimate government, and that the US have not done sufficient. In fact, 2 weeks ago, Representative Bass, who is a chairwoman for Africa, put out such a shameful statement on her page that have misguided a lot of American government. But that, I think, is for us the reason why we supported the removal of AGU for Ethiopia to be from there. It is because it does not benefit equally as it should the average people. It have displaced millions of people, millions of particularly farmers, indigenous people from their land to build this industrial park, and there is no sufficient compensation have been made for these people, and the government is misused the funding that comes through that system. And China is the #1 beneficiary for that one, more than even Ethiopia is. I'll give it to Khan. I'm out. Thank you.
Yeah, let me bring in the theory of what is called utilitarian theory, which is good for majority. The aspect of what do you mean by saying innocent people are being killed on daily basis? They are imprisoned. And you are telling me that innocent people are going to suffer. The government had the opportunity to correct the mistake, but they refuse. And every time, when the government commit atrocity and they have the system to correct themselves, trade follow in the category of socioeconomic rights, which the government, fulfill it stage by stage. But leave at the civil and political rights, which is called the first generation right. Government should just, government is not required to provide any money to assist, give people freedom of speech. Government does not require to give, any money to prevent them not to be jailed. Government just are to give out that. But on the trade aspect, the government should realize it progressively. And whenever, social first generation right, which is the civil and political rights, collude with socio-economic right, the civil and political rights take the lead. And that is, I think, where America justified it on, because whenever there is no civil and political right, there's no socio-economic right. When a person is not free, how can he justify his economic and social rights? Whenever you imprison people in the name of, Aliero, there's a crime called Aliero in Ethiopia. When they just government district security feel like you are a threat to national security, they imprison you. So
why don't you add on that one? Actually, the report we just published about 177, including women. Why don't you add in that one? I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah, I say that. Look at it when the government in prison 157 individuals, including more than 20 women in East Guji, detain them with their children for almost a year and a half. Do you compare civil and political rights to socio-economic rights? No. And that is where the utilitarian theory win over the, what the people say, the innocent are going to suffer. Government knows innocent are, suffering even because that money or that aid will have been. You look at the Ethiopian government using UN motor vehicles to transport their security. Is that going to innocent civilian? Is that giving security to innocent civilian? Look at the young boys who are, filmed by government security soldiers shooting them in the, alleged border zone. Look at them where the fandos are killing the Gumus people and guy and dragging them on the street. What are such atrocities? What the government has done? Do any individual have been arrested and prosecuted for that crime? No. So whoever is saying Aga is going to affect, the million of poor people, they have the opportunity to change the life of the poor citizen. And also, it is so crazy. Let me even stop it there because the government does not justify. Let the government put the case and then they defend it because they don't have case to defend themselves. That is why they're just crying over Facebook, writing open letters on Facebook. It's now called Meta. Yeah, it's just a social media for fun, not a diplomatic language. Look at Ethiopia, diplomatical closing more than 60 embassies and going home in the name of training their diplomats. They died. They gave up long time ago. If they exist, they should have fought diplomatically. Why they should not, it should not be removed. But they gave up long time ago because they saw that they don't have any case on the international stage. In fact, they gave up, and that government does not even win any support from any individual. Yeah, we rest our case and that.
Thank you very much. I mean, one of the debates that not just the last 3 years, but one of the biggest debates about good governance versus economic development. I mean, which one comes first? It's been a very big debate that I was having with a lot of people. Even under TPLF, some people are saying, let's forget about the good governance because economically we're doing good. Anyways, you guys covered it very well. So one thing that I will add would be, even yesterday, as early as or as late, whatever you want to call it, as yesterday, the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed, is using very inflammatory and a language that adds fuel to the fire, not something that calms people. He tried to come out as a calm person by talking slower and talking with the volume that's could be considered calm, but the language that he's using is saying we're gonna fight till the end. The reason why they're winning is because if they turn back, they're getting killed. We're not at that stage yet. As if that there's another stage where if you turn around, we're gonna kill you. Stage. It's a warning. It's just ugly language that he was using to, instead of calming people down, actually adding fuel to the fire and showing his willingness, his readiness to sacrifice more lives to hold on to power. This is craziness. How can one person be so into himself that he's willing to sacrifice even more lives? Its report is hundreds and thousands of lives already being sacrificed. He's still willing to sacrifice more lives to hold on to power. Now, if people want to cry about this sanction taking money away from the pockets of the poor, they should be crying for the people that are losing their lives. I think that's where it should start. But my hope, really, amongst this despair, my hope is that since this sanction does not really kick in until January 1st, hopefully in the next 2 months, there's going to be a big change coming to the. Of course, it might not even take 2 months with the movements and actions that we see surrounding the capital, Finfinne. But hopefully, in the next 2 months, things will be radically different and better for the people of the country, that the sanction will not be it won't be in place because the things are better, and some of the things, people are paying for their crimes. Investigation is being done. People are being held accountable. In the next 2 months, we'll see them in courts or fleeing, running for their lives, as we've seen the previous regimes do. So that's my hope, at least, in that regard. But I want to transition you guys to the state of emergency that's been declared. I know there's a lot of other things to cover, so let's try to cover it fast. State of emergency being declared. What do you think about the state of emergency? And what do you think about the language? Do you think that was necessary? What do you think is the purpose? And things of that nature. Please, anybody go next.
Let me go first on the state of emergency aspect. You saw what the government did is the government has now suspended the civil rights. They have put where now individual right as a suspension that military can search you, can search your house, can stop transport, and can even shut down the communication aspect of the bill. I just want to say on this is that this is not the first time TPLF did. They are the command post, what our people normally call them the command boxy, because they didn't know that aspect of the English. It has been there, and but now.
By the way, don't forget, please, when you talk about these things, don't forget that these guys that are in power are also were part of the TPLF and have the handbook. So I want the audience to be aware of that also.
But now the things are so different. You see, the government used to be controlling a lot of large areas back then when they declare the state of emergency. But now, look at the landmass that the government control. It's so logically, can the military, can it able to, make any progress commanding the movement of individuals, the movement of people they call, can even they go to the countryside and search the houses? It is not practicable. Can they even limit the movement, cross the road whenever they want? Because even some roads are being closed by rebels, and so it's aspect of the view. Implementing this state of emergency is what I love to see. Because I don't know how much, I don't know whether they can even implement it 40%, imposing curfew to certain areas. Look at it. Whenever you don't even control those areas, so how will you impose the curfew, logically? And then, but now, I think the serious aspect of the view is this, where, in the name of, looking for the sympathizers of the terrorists, they are going to, imprison more people. They're going to confiscate more people, more properties. And I think the life of the innocent civilian is at risk at this state of emergency. And the government, again, missed the chance. You remember when Abiy just was sworn, he promised about the national dialogue. What happened? Yeah. And then I was wondering, when the opposition parties are in jail and the others, national conversation was happening where? Was it behind the curtain, like what happened to some individuals, witness coming and giving the testimony behind the curtain? Was the national dialogue also happening behind the curtain? I don't know what happened. And we haven't seen any resolution, any evidence that any even small national conversation happened. You saw the body language of when the ministers were, given, trying to declare that state of emergency. People are just, that facial expression and photos, people are don't even know sure that how many months are they going to in office, the ministers. So it's bad, but I fear for the worst, because the Ethiopian government regime has been, committing one of the most atrocities in the world, the worst atrocity. And in the name of state of emergency, I think most citizens are going to suffer, and that is where I think the world should pay attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Sena.
Thank you, T. I'll pick it, and then I guess I'll say two things, T, on my time. And I'm also today observing, comments, our comment section to be very, very I don't know, spiced up. There's a lot of conversation, a lot of worry that I see, a lot of hate that, that we should worry, and why I don't. But to answer the question you posed is the declaration of state of emergency. Let's come back. Saturday, after weeks of fight and dying, after hundreds, if not thousands of people were killed in Desse, Tigray, TDF broke Desse Saturday. Come Sunday, piece of cake, they walked over, took over Kombolcha. Both of the city are strategic. The same day, OLA, to which Representative Bass are trying to label as a terrorist organization, took over Kamise, Oromia region. And from there, the rest is history, obviously. And this happened 2-3 days ago. And within that much, and the Amhara regional government declared state of emergency, all work stop, everybody to the bottle, children. It doesn't matter if you're given a birth, get whatever you need and go to. And then you have Daniel Kibret and everybody coming on media, appealing to public, you have to go, fight, defend yourself for your land. And you see that people literally calling for a civil war on TV. Comes Monday, or yesterday, Tuesday, actually, 2 days later, you see the Prime Minister declared state of emergency. In that language, if you read that state of emergency, pretty much you have to have an ID. So that is purposely targeting the Tagalog people. They want to see, because everybody have Tigray or Oromo, they have national card. And once you are Tigray, they want to arrest. And that is the target. And that state of emergency is declared against, particularly because Oromo have been under state of emergency for the last 2-3 years. State of emergency as an Oromo is what we've been living as. So that declaration does not apply to us, but it does apply to the Naftañas, and it's particularly the Tigrays. We see the Naftañas and the people in power, that maybe they are wishy-washy. There are so many people, including from the Oromo side, who stand with the government a little bit. They flirt, they are nice to the government, and then they also want to pretend like they are against government. Wishy-washy, I call them Sagagal to Nafar Oromo. I think that state of emergency is for them. The language is a genocidal language. You see the New York Times, Washington Post writing about that. But I wanted to make 3 things. I want us to come back to talk about what the ways the international community should do now. Now the change is coming. Now the time that all us organization, we've been calling for national dialogue since last August, long before the fake election supposed to happen in October. What the opposition say that was not right. The constitution does not allow government to go. The illegally governed past October of last year. Abiy mandate supposed to end in October of 2020. He took additional 7 or 8, more like 9 months to continue and then run a sham election. So we've been calling for national dialogue, and that have died. Now it's transitional government. So the international community should really scale up 3 things, what we are calling for. One is the protection of the political prisoners. We are very concerned. We have 50,000 political prisoners in Ethiopia, and especially people like Bakala Garba, Jawar, Mohammed. These are under the control of government. We do not know what this government will do with them. So the international community should really need to call on it. That will create another balance. Second one is, there's the crisis of IDPs and refugees. There's nearly 1 billion have went into aid, but Tigrayan people have not gotten any aid. Where did that money go? There are according to Special Envoy yesterday's speech, 20 million Ethiopians are desperate for food. According to UN database, 6.7 million people in Oromia are hungry and desperate for food, and I don't see any aid going for that. So we need aid, we need support that need to be going to this IDP area. There's a lot of hunger. We've seen what happened in Borana, we've seen what happened in Arsi, we've seen in Hararge, all throughout the country. And this is just on Oromia we're focusing, but the whole country. We don't even know what's happening to the command. Benishangul Gumuz, small minority group who are against the government, genocide have been waged against them by the Amhara militia, by the Amhara government, that nobody's talking about it. And then refugees, we want us to focus in later time. There's a lot of refugees in Yemen that want to come back to Ethiopia, not just Yemen, another country, they couldn't come back. So that's another aspect that we want international community to kind of pay attention and really talk about it. This regime is gone. It's misguided. Concern statement for 10 months, 8 months, did not get what it's supposed to get, the accomplishment. Now we have the AGWA out there, and that sends a clear message, and it's a right move. We support that. And the new government is going to be transitional government. The international community, they need to beef up and make sure this transition is captured properly. If not, Ethiopia is on the crossroad for complete civil war, complete. And it's possible because right now, you have the bad guys who also want to come back. And then also, I wanted to end the tea, just would say that for our people who are very concerned about, I'm saying rightfully, some of them are rightfully concerned about, the balance between the OLA and then TDF, how is that going? What the Oromo should do? And even based on this comment that there's false equivocation of the genocide government who waged the genocide against the Garo and including Oromos, which is the federal government, the Amhara regional government, and the Eritrean government. Those need to be held accountable. And accountability is must for previous and current violence that happened. But let me stop here, Tay, and I'll give it to you.
Yeah, thank you for saying a solution what the international community should do, and I want to add to what our people should do. One thing what we have to recognize is that Abiy and his government, they are liars. I mean, no sugarcoating on that. There are no Eritrean forces in Ethiopia fighting the war. There are none. We found out that to be false. They admitted themselves. Oh, okay. There are some in there, but when we invaded Mekelle, not one person died. Not one civilian died. Well, we found out that to be a lie. When we left the areas that we previously occupied, it's not because we lost. It's because it's that strategic planning. That's why we're going backwards. But we need more people. Well, why do you need more people if you're winning? We're winning, but we need more people to come. We left Dessie because of strategic planning. But we need more people. Why do you need more people if you're winning? We're winning, but we need more people. So you're lying to the masses. You're lying to sacrifice them. So please know that he's lying to hold on to power. Do not listen to the call for more bodies to be sacrificed. Do not be that body that is sacrificed for one person's gain. As far as the state of emergency, that I want you to believe him on that one. And there's going to be a lot of profiling that's going to happen. They're going to detain a lot of young people, especially of Tigray and Oromo origin. Of course, the state of emergency, as both of you mentioned, is going to be really effective around Finfinne, Addis Ababa, because the rest of the region is controlled by not the government. So the government does not have control, so there's no way it can impose those state of emergency. But as far as the capital, be vigilant, be your brother's keeper, talk to each other, form networks of information, so that you can be one step ahead of their planned. I wouldn't call it a genocide within the capital, but planned mass arrests, mass killings, mass confiscations. The economy, is going to be hurt regardless, since there's a curfew. Most of the activities at night will be hindered, and also a lot of people will be in fear of doing business as usual. So I want people to be very vigilant and very aware of what's happening and is going to happen in the capital with this declaration. They're going to be, they said anybody can be detained without due process. Well, it's been happening. They say anybody can be extrajudicial killings. It's been happening. Everything has been happening in all areas of the country, except really at a lesser extent in the capital. But this declaration is also including the capital to make it look like the rest of the country. Now I'll jump directly to next topic. There are many to discuss, but the next will be, you guys have hopefully heard what the special envoy was, had us probably an hour long conversation. I want you guys to comment on, especially people are calling him biased towards TPLF, and he explained why people might think that, and that's not really the reason. People are citing his speech during the funeral of the previous dictator of Ethiopia, Meles Zenawi, and they're saying because of that speech that he made, he is in bed with the TPLF. So can you guys talk a lot about the special envoy and what the significance of what he said and things of that nature, please?
Let me go first. I want to say that, first of all, the revolution has eaten its own children. The revolution is eating its own children, and this government, it's going to punish its own children than even the outsiders. When people are jumping and supporting the the bloodshedding government, and when the government, when the anarchy come in, it's going to eat the children than even the neighbors. And this is in politically what's happening. And I saw, the special envoy saying about, TPLF should not progress toward Addis. I think that's too late. It's too late. Too late. The future of the country is determined by its citizens. And you see what happened in Rwanda. It's until the Paul Kagame, the parties that, Paul Kagame used to be a refugee in Uganda. And when the massacre genocide were happening to his tribe, the genocide stopped when Kagame party overtook Kigali. And they are determined, they are few. The government had, support, the government had machineries, but the united small group went and overdrew, and the genocide stopped. And I think that's what TPLF is doing. That calling of not advancing, I think it's too late. People have already advanced. They have shown their intention, the mental capability, the physical capability, even and politics is giving people hope, and TPLF has given citizens hope, and the prosperity has lost hope. I thought they were coming up ministers from, bring national unity, but they pick individual ministers who pretend to be representing different part of the country, but they don't have support from the backyard. Even if you force millions of people to go and fight, when they don't have passion, when they are not fed with hope and determination and patriotism, they just give up. Government, saying, people giving out clashes and saying we are surrendered doesn't mean anything. This PR aspect of the view, it's a lie. And the government has lost, and hope is not, I think, it's not going through the drought of many of the government soldiers. And it is too late. I think even there is this rumors going around that all the diplomats have left and they came to Nairobi. I don't know how it is true is that, but it seemed you saw the US calling its citizens prepare to leave. When you call a citizen of a capital city of Africa, it's not a capital city of Ethiopia. This means a capital city of Africa telling the citizen to harm themselves with pangas, any weapons. People fear. How can you live in such city when the anarchy is at the play? Anyone can kill you. That's what diplomats are living. Economically, they are dead. Once TPLF sees that route of the Djibouti, and Ethiopia is a landlocked country, are you going to use aeroplane to ship basic commodities from port of Djibouti to Addis? No. You can't feed people. And whenever you are not going to get money, even your children will eat you. And that children are eating the same government. Revolution is eating its own children. The government is punishing its own supporters more than it's punishing the enemy.
Thank you.
Yeah, well said. Sena, I want you to also add on that. And then also add if you think that we heard reports yesterday that capital is surrounded. Do you believe that, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you believe that they should proceed in taking over power also? You don't have to answer that part, but I will answer it when it's my turn.
Yeah, I think you asked for your own self, but I think I'll answer the one that kind of comment on it. I listened to Special Envoy Mr. Feltman's speech at the USIP. We've worked, at least have a contact with USIP since Hachalu's, actually right before Hachalu's killing. I think we met with them. At the time, there was the president was Mr. Ambassador Carson, who was the advisor to the President Trump. And we obviously have been writing back several times with the special envoy since he was appointed in April, that we wrote a letter and 5 senators wrote a letter on behalf of us and other Ethiopians about the situation. It's not just focusing about situation in the northern part of the country. The crisis is across the country, and particularly mentioning about Oromo and the political prisoners. In response to that letter, there was some letter that came up, but that is a private matter. So the point I was trying to make is, so I saw the speech. I saw from many angles. I was excited, and majority is very good. Why I am so excited is he talked about the illusion of Ethiopian 3,000 years existence. This Ethiopia is made into this angel country with 3,000 years history going back to biblical. Then he talked about how he realized inside is not a nation, it's an empire that's kept there with the blood, with knife, with thousands being killed. For the first time, one of the highest American diplomat, Mr. Feldman, have such high credibility. He worked at the UN. He understands situation. He is appointed because US cares a lot about Ethiopia. They want to save the country. They want to stop the bloodshed. One thing we are so proud of as an organization is that we thought these people will show Ethiopia, the true Ethiopia. We as an Ethiopian who are born and raised in Ethiopia, the Ethiopia that eats their children, the Ethiopia that eats the hands that fed them, people like Abiy, the Naftanyas, those are who we call Naftanyas, who have ridden in the back of the indigenous people for decades, if not over a century. US and Ethiopia have 100 plus years of relationship. This relationship, I've spoken to high diplomat in a various organization. They did not know Ethiopia that we know, but today the world know Ethiopia that we know. They're not completely on the same page with us, but the world know. There's no Ethiopia. There's no stability in East Africa without answering the Oromo question. And me, as someone who have learned the injustice that committed against Benishangul Gumuz, doubling the injustice against Oromo, against Kemant, and against Somali and many other people, I care about them just as much as I care about me. I'm not looking as Allah, as Oromo. We're not looking for Oromo dictator. We don't want Oromo to come and be a dictator and impose their will on them, just like the Naftanyas and the Abiy imposed his will on them, his will on us, because we brought Abiy to who he is, and he turned against it. He turned against the very first, before he started fighting with the Tigray or TDF, he begged them. But for us, he said, no, I'm not going to even sit with you and talk because you're not worthy of my time. He said, Oromos means nothing to me. I'm here representing OD or PDO, ODP, that when they change their name. Like Oromo had nothing in him. If he could, when it's convenient, his advisor are Daniel Kibret. His advisors are Daniel Kibret, a person who comes on the media and makes fun of Oromos, makes fun of Keros. These are his people. Today, Special Envoy talks about the Ethiopia that we know. The international community have finally gripped with the reality of Ethiopia that is being created. Now, the new Ethiopia, if to exist, will be Ethiopia that is good for Ethiopians. We don't need an aid. It's just a temporary. 5 years, few years, there will be difference in the country. People are oppressed. They cannot farm. For 2 years in Oromia, people did not farm tea. People did not. They were the youths who were supposed to farm are either dead, in prison, or joined and struggle. So what are we supposed to eat? What are the millions of Oromos supposed to eat in Oromia? Well, because the Naftanyas, they have handouts from Abiy. They are getting on Abiy money. So I thought the special envoy's speech was a decent. On the other side, the negative side is he still shied away the reality from Oromia. He mentioned barely at the end about the political prisoners and Oromia. Once, 1 hour discussion, he mentioned one time Oromia. And I think that is unfortunate because we as Oromos and as an advocacy organization have been extremely lenient and very patient in making sure the situation. But this continuation, this double standard in pretending like the issue that's happening in Oromia is not visible to America, then, we're winning this war. We're winning finally. The tide have shifted already. Abiy is begging for dialogue now. Those days are gone. So it's the best thing right now. The U.S. international community recognize the injustice that happened to Oromos and include in their conversation. The fear of offending certain Amharas or Nafteñas, what I'm saying, that they have lost the war. And I think I have to end it with that one, T. And I just wanted to also add that the report that just came out on all 177 people in East Guji that were arrested, including women with the babies, with infants, are in prison since last year. I don't see Special Envoy talking about it. I don't see Karen Bass talking about it. I don't see the EU Special Envoy talking about it. That is heartbreaking to me. But I'll end it there, and I think we also have to wrap it. Thank you.
Yeah, we have to wrap it. But I just wanted to say, because of the topic you started about the 3,000-year history, a new song came out, and some people sent it to me. The song by a famous singer, Tedros. He's best known as Teddy Afro, and a lot of people especially pro-government people, are saying they cried because he's talking about this concept of Ethiopia. This, if you didn't cry when millions were being killed and raped and tortured in northern part of Ethiopia, you have no moral grounds to cry for a concept of a land that you think should be there. And part of the song, what he says is he misses the Ethiopia of yesterday. He misses that glorious day. What glorious day? Can we stop looking back and say glorious day? Because Ethiopia never had a glorious day back for all the peoples of Ethiopia. Why don't we look to the future and dream of a better future instead of looking back where a lot of people have a lot of wounds and trying to open those wounds? And that's the difference. One of the biggest difference between people is when you look back, if you see a glorious past, then you're not understanding the suffering of the people that suffered in what you call the glorious past. Now, coming back to the issue of Abiy's government, the international community, everybody understands that even to start with, is because he didn't want the TPLF to participate in the transitional government that this conflict started. And even after the conflict started, everybody were calling for negotiations. Come to the table and discuss. And the person that denied that discussion is Abiy Ahmed and his government. Even after the conflict started, in a couple of weeks, months, when they declared that they won in 10 days, people are still saying, come to a negotiation table and discuss. And still, the person that refused is Abiy and his government. Time and time again, the government has refused to sit down for negotiations. And people took arms to force him to bring him to the table. Even when they did that and people are dying, what did we think? Oh, people are dying. I'll stop. I'll come to the table. Any sane person would do that. But he came out on media, he said, no matter who dies, we will not stop what we started. He said this on national television. It doesn't matter how many dies and who dies, we'll continue to do what we do. And to the point where we're at right now, where the TDF and all our forces have controlled not only the Dese and Kombolcha and Kemisi and Dosa, but they controlled the main highway that takes from that area to the capital. And a lot of activities surrounding the capital. So go ahead. You have my blessings. March on. If he doesn't leave on his own, remove him by force. You have my blessing. We've tried all kinds of diplomacy, advocacy, asking, begging, but now, for the sake of the people that are dying on the ground, for the people that continues to die, he's calling on the people of the capital to arm themselves. People that are not militarily trained to defend the land. Come on now. Come on now. This is a recipe for disaster. Don't do that. It's too late. Just leave. Just run. Or surrender. That's what you should do at this time. This is what you should do at this moment. Not write another recipe to destroy the population. 5 million people live in the capital. 5 million. Come on now. Come on now. You've done all the damage you can. This is the time for you to leave. Surrender. Give up. They're coming for you. There's no stopping at this point. That's what I'll stop.
I think we should close with that. Thank you, Tim. I don't know.
There's a lot of topics to cover. We'll cover different weeks because things are happening very fast. Um, Hopefully, the suffering of the people of Ethiopia will come to an end very soon. And I think our conversations in the future should include what should be done moving forward. Of course, a lot of people in the comments were talking about the power imbalance, what's going to happen once Abiy leaves. Post Abiy solutions is going to be our discussion for next week. I think we'll have a series of talks in the next coming weeks on that topic.
Yeah, what I was saying. What I would say is on that angle is that I think we should maybe have even sooner discussion, bring other guests, and then also kind of give assurance to now is the best time for the US to act aggressively. There's an opportunity to bring in democracy, stability, and dialogue and transitional government to the country without any further bloodshed. Abiy regime, Abiy days, or the modernization of Ethiopia is dead this time forever, not to be ever revived. Those days are gone. We're so worried at some point federalism would be at risk because that was Abiy's main mission. Those days are gone, and everybody have accepted. And I remember my conversation when I met with the senator, a couple of senator offices. How Abiy was trying to say federalism have divided Ethiopian people on ethnic line. No. This what he did. PP is what really brought Ethiopians against one another. And the TPLF by any means is an angel. We know them. We have lost a family member, but we have not been dehumanized under PP as much as under PP than any other regime. So I say my closing remark, I think our people need to be very vigilant, especially in Ethiopia. The diplomats are leaving the capital. And the U.S. embassy have asked a lot of its citizens to leave the country. So what it show you where the country is heading. The U.S. international community have an opportunity to really push for immediate transitional government that is inclusive of everybody. And I think we need to hear from the Somalis, from the Gamans, from Agua, from everybody. We need to hear about them, what they want, what country they like to live on. And the constitution have to be implemented. Another thing that special envoy say is that follow the constitution. That's what we've been saying. What the Naftanyas tried to did was trying to replace the constitution. They work in the constitution. They were ready. Gideon that just announced yesterday state of emergency was ready to implement the new constitution. The government was just inaugurated less than a month ago. So God is in the truth is on our side. The people of Ethiopia, the people of Africa will prevail. As Oromos, we have suffered for over a century, and the truth is finally catching up. It is a good day for oppressed people. It's a good day for all the people who cares about human rights around the world. Democracy shall come to Ethiopia. For that to happen, I think the U.S. have to act immediately. Political prisoners must be released, must be protected at this point. We know that anything can happen to them when you are obviously under the governments who are about to depart. Abiy have sent already his family to, I believe, is some European country, and he's expected to flee to Turkey. That's some of the rumors that's circulating.
Yes, I think Switzerland is a country. I'll give the closing remark for Kanna, but before I do that, nobody in Ethiopian history, nobody in this short history, nobody has a chance like Abiy had to bring democracy to the country. He squandered a golden opportunity. Kanna, closing remarks.
Yeah, my biggest worry is the innocent civilian who are encouraged to join the bloody wars. And when the state is in the state of anarchy, innocent civilians suffer the most. And whenever the government is not in control, the government itself is trying to cause more civilian chores and more damage. And it is right now that people should be concerned about their parents, their families, their extended families back at home. Check on them as much as possible. Tell them stay away from the conflict. Try to take the shade, and international community should also, provide more assistance because there are more people who are displaced in every front. You saw the video on BBC when they went to take some videos on the Oromo Liberation Front. They actually documented Oromos who are displaced along the Indo-Kenyan borders. Those are just few numbers. But you have seen more Oromos are displaced in the war loss aspect. As the conflict take on tolls, innocent mothers and children will be sleeping outside. And I know there is no international laws in the place to protect displaced people. The displaced people are, left at the mercy of the states to protect and to provide for them. But the state is not even in the capacity to protect innocent civilian liveabouts. They can't even protect their own ministerials. What about the civilian? The civilians who are going to suffer more, and the international community should, provide through through civil society organization, through medical organization. There's no government now to channel support, but they should work with the civil society to help the civilian. They should work with the neighboring countries like Kenya along the borderline to save innocent civilians who will be fleeing from the conflict. They will not be having food. As the Senate said, farming has not been happening. Look at the two districts in Gumi Dalo and Liban. They have been displaced. The government services have not been working there for almost a year now. Innocent mothers are dying because hospitals, they cannot access hospitals during the childbirth. And it is so messy that it is this time that we really need international solidarity and support. And let the UN officials who are expelled from Ethiopia, let UN able to, they can access, Ethiopia can be held liable if anything happened to UN staff. Let the countries like Kenya, countries like neighbor, stable countries that like Egypt that border, near Ethiopia that can save our people. Yeah, that is where I live it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and have a good rest of the day.